It's time for Market Explainer, your number one business news podcast. Hosted by Danny and the big man. And it starts right now.
All right, folks, we're going to jump into this next story. But before we do that, I want to tell you about our sponsor, Big Man Gear. You can go to bigmangear.com and pick up this guy's idea of a funny T-shirt. I still remember when like in junior high, and those like kind of like funny T-shirts started becoming a thing. Guys wore, you know, and I went to Target and they didn't have any. They never had the XL, which is what I needed when I was in elementary school. So
you and me both, brother. You and me both.
Yeah. So I never got to buy one, and then my parents were super traditional. So if it had anything that could be construed as offensive in any culture on the planet, they were like, "You can't have this." So I never got to have anything cool, and I still don't get to have anything cool. Here's my business partner. We own a podcast company together. Won't even send me a free shirt. The jerk.
I need to do that. My dad wouldn't let me have a Simpsons shirt when I was, because again, the same thing.
Yeah. Okay. You can go to bigmangear.com. That'll send you to the Amazon Prime store, and you can order something from Big Man Gear today.
Yep.
So, Wordle, which I don't play because I have a life.
This is the dumbest story ever, folks. Sometimes Danny enters a story into our timeline as one of what I consider top four very important types of stories that we talk about each week, because obviously we don't do this but once a week, and he wastes our time on some of the dumbest stories.
No, hold on, let me just explain. First of all, I had a different story in here that I bumped to next week, which is a huge tech company going,
those prefax or post prefax.
No, a huge company going from public to private, and I bumped it for one reason. And that's because I read this article. Again, you always say, Donnie never reads the articles, tell you what. Pew, pew,
he doesn't.
Pew, pew.
He doesn't, but go ahead.
This guy created Wordle in October.
Yeah. Like October last year. Yeah. Like 4 months ago.
Yeah. And so that's a reason, that's a story.
Sure.
Number two, a bunch of my people who follow me on Twitter and a bunch of my friends are posting the dumb squares. I didn't know what it was. And because I'm an anti-trend guy.
You and me both.
So like, and I try to permit myself to enjoy things I enjoy. But sometimes I don't, I permit myself to hate the things I hate, which is I hate trends. Because it's, again, earlier in this episode, I mentioned people who can't articulate something because they're dumb. And that's what people who hop on trends are, which is why TikTok exists. It's just but I saw it everywhere.
These are the opinions of Danny, not Market Explainer, not the big man, but go ahead.
Of course not. So when I see that there was something this has become such a trend where my friends are posting about Wordle here and there. Mm-hmm. And, hey, we do a weekly podcast, and sometimes what happens is I enter a story sometimes 2 or 3 weeks in advance into our list of stories, and it's kind of got some moss on it by the time we go to publish. We're going to be on time with this story. Hey, in 4 months, forget about Bathing Ape Yacht Club, Bored Ape Yacht Club. Bathing Ape is a streetwear brand. Yeah, that has a $5 billion market cap, by the way, which is nut bar.
Mm-hmm.
This guy made 7 figures in a matter of 4 months developing an app that's like, I mean, it's just basically Scrabble, isn't it?
Well, I actually went and, you know me, my personal social media timeline on any platform, whether it's Twitter, whether it's Facebook, whether it's LinkedIn, whatever, is very narrow. And I keep it that because I only want things that I like there. I don't like a lot of garbage. This is what's important. So for anytime something outside of my normal stuff bleeds in, I know it's a huge trend. Because it would have to be a massive trend for it to get in to my algorithm. I'm the same way. Right?
I'm the same way. I have 9 Instagram accounts because if I want to see watch stuff, I only want to see watch stuff.
Exactly.
If I want to see car stuff, I just want to see car stuff. If I want to see my friends' babies, I just delete them so I don't have to. I'm just kidding. I love babies.
But yeah. So it is that. My algorithm is very, and I work hard to keep that algorithm.
Yes.
So Wordle is definitely popular enough that it has made it into that time frame. Again, like you, I have a tendency to be late on popular trends like that. Not business-wise, but just... like you said, apps trends. And games and social trends because I later, like Candy Crush, I got into it years after it was popular, all of these things. But Wordle, I actually went on today, and it still is, believe it or not, it's not even an app. It's a website you have to go to. They're designing an app, but it's literally website. Not only is it a little website, this is things I learned today. Not only is it just a website, but it's a website. It's the same for everyone during that day. So if you and I go to Wordle.com, you have only 6 tries to guess the word for everybody in the world. That's why it's become so popular. It's become this competitive thing of you screenshotting it, saying, I guessed the word in 3 tries.
Right.
And if you don't guess it in the 6 tries, you don't get it that day until it resets for the next. So it's not even something you can go and play 15 times, you know what I mean, a day, or you're not supposed to. It's supposed to be, right? Hey, I actually saw, speaking of social, a TikTok where it said somebody bounces into the future 5 years, and they're like, before you can go outside, you have to do Wordle. You have to guess it, and if you don't get it on the 6 tries, you can't go outside today. You know what I mean? And they're like, dang it, number 3, dang it, number 4.
Yeah, somebody on TikTok would think that would be the future. Listen, and New York Times is interesting because they've made some interesting acquisitions. I think 6 years ago now, in 2016. No, it's more than 6 years. Holy crud! In 2016, they acquired the Wirecutter, which is a tech review website. So
I actually had to think about this. Yeah. I actually had to think about this because it's the New York Times obviously purchased Wordle, but I thought, what is a newspaper conglomerate kind of thing buying this, and did not know until this article that they bought Crossword, which was an app, right, doing crossword puzzles, that kind of stuff. And I get it. That's what people used to do with the paper, right? Crossword puzzles and guessing and word search. These things used to be in the Sunday paper every Sunday. I remember, and again, I'm old, so that I remember those things when I was a kid, the word search and the crossword puzzles and stuff like that. Right. So it makes sense, I guess, but I was, until this article, and it goes, the company disclosed that in December, it had reached, New York Times, by the way, 1 million subscribers on these little games that it's purchased.
Right. And that's important because that's a big number for them. And because in a situation where media companies have to retrain consumers because they were giving away the content for free for so long with just inline ads that they're putting everything behind a paywall. They need to increase the value of what they can offer. Like, hey, you're just paying for New York Times. Do you want to play a stupid video game too?
But if it's popular enough, and this guy's name is Josh Wardle with an A instead of an O, so he named it Wordle, but his last name is Wardle, so which is funny to me. But apparently,
it's getting dumber with every minute.
Apparently, in the press release that went out when the New York Times bought this, he was actually happy that the New York Times bought it because he kind of said, "Hey, growing up and doing these crossword puzzles and stuff like this had a big to-do about me creating this website, this page."
It influenced them. And so we don't know exactly how much they spent. It hasn't been disclosed, and I don't think we'll ever know. But the official numbers are saying they spent 7 figures on it. So let's say, I know it's probably more than 5 million because if you just started something, you're not selling it for less than 5, but I know it's not 10. So I'm throwing it out there. He got paid $8.5 million for a couple months of building. It's a website.
It's a website.
What's a website, dude?
It's a website. It's not even an app. It's a website. Like,
I would rather have a website because I have app fatigue. So if one more person tries to get me to download an app, when I refill my prescriptions, I download the Walgreens app. I refill the prescriptions because I can just laser them. and like it just picks up the the
Yeah.
code, and then I delete the app because I
My
don't.
HOA made me download an app for the new H. Here's the point, though. I used to like not get mad at, but get frustrated with Danny because Danny would say something like, money doesn't exist anyway, so why not do X, Y, and Z?
Yeah.
And here recently, we're doing these stories, in some of the strangest things happen in today's world, and somebody will give them $1 million or five, you know what I mean, or $5 million or $10 billion or whatever it is. And if you don't believe that's true, go to some of these venture capitalist websites and see what they funded recently.
And
There's
how
several
much they
websites
paid.
out there that track big,
Yeah.
angel investment funds and stuff like that, and go see what they're handing out millions of dollars to. And the risk associated with it is insane. But
Yeah.
now you get a company like this guy, and look, maybe it took him 5 years to develop this website. I don't know. But all I'm saying is it's existed, like you said, for 3.5 months, and he walks away with at least $1 million. We don't know what it is, but it's at least $1 million for 3.5 months. How did this become something that became something popular that the New York Times, that's all over the world?
Yeah, so here's what I think happened. I think a company like the New York Times is starting to understand that if they want to survive, they have to become a tech company, right? And part of that is understanding this thing's hot today. We have the resources to make it everlasting, probably,
Right.
but more so
Right.
than Wardell does. And what in order to do that, in order to make this thing last, it needs capital, it needs a little more development, all this other stuff. If we don't jump on this, a competitor will either acquire it or they'll knock it off and build the sustainable version of it. And so they're looking at it and going, we don't want to get MySpace by Facebook.
Well, but how did Wardell, though? Think about it. I just developed a web page that does this thing that I think is really cool. How does it go from my basement, right? Not that Texas
Right.
ever has basements, but I'm using it as a
No, you can.
metaphorical. Where do you work?
No, there's
right?
a couple of jurisdictions that let you do it now.
But so where does it go from my basement to being
Right.
one of the hottest games in the world in a matter of months? How does that happen? What's that story where he told somebody that told somebody that told somebody that 3.5 months later you get paid whatever millions of dollars for a web page?
Right.
What's that story? I'm just interested in that. I'm always interested to how does it go from the garage that you start in, Michael Dell, right? You have Microsoft, whatever. How does it go from the garage to where it is?
Yeah. And so let me just add this. Part of the reason I like this story is I don't care about the app. I don't care about the website. I don't care about words with friends. I don't care about farming on the internet, although I should because now it's going to be a thing. But what the most interesting part for me was 3.5 months, 7 figures, right?
Right.
And I get there's people out here flipping JPEGs for that much money in days, not months. But to see it happen and to see it validated by New York Times. And so here's one of the things, kind of not a market explainer, but just a thought was, what's important as an entrepreneur, what's important for young people to understand is don't think like a worker, think like a hacker, right? Think like an entrepreneur. What that means is I don't know what this guy's going to go do after this, but he just solved one problem, which is he wasn't a millionaire before, and now he is. And he solved that problem in 3 months. Now, he still has a problem of now I got to wake up the day after I sell this thing to New York Times call their company, and they're probably going to take over everything. He's probably not going to have a long-term role in the business. And the thing is, you just have to worry about the next thing. If you're stuck on, if you're a young 18, 19, you're thinking, I got to go to college. The concept that you're going to have your entire life planned out, you're going to 4 years at college, then 40 years at a corporation, retire, go on Social Security, move to Florida, all of that. You're going to have to plan everything today, and you're going to have to take a $175,000 student loan to do that. This schmuck who you've never heard of just put $1 million in his pocket because he created a website. Now, what does he go do after that? Does he create another one? Does he find it? Does lightning strike twice? Or does he just go, I'm a real estate investor now? Or does he just say, I have minimum $1 million. I can go on a website called MicroAcquire and I can buy 3 different software as a service companies with financing, and those will generate a collective $50,000 a month in profit. And I can pay down the loans, and I'm going to cash flow $10,000 a month. And now he's sitting in Puerto Rico, not paying any taxes, sipping Mai Tais, living the dream. Think like a hacker. Think like an entrepreneur. Don't think like a worker. The worker is worried about putting in the hours. The hacker is worried about building and creating value, which is subjective.
Absolutely. I agree. I used to think that I had an idea of what that subjective thought process was.
Yeah.
But in the last 18 months, it's gone out the window.
So me exposing you to how my brain thinks by putting certain stories in our show has changed how you view the world. Because when I say money is fake, so why not roll the dice? You used to think I was crazy, and now you're going, well, maybe money is fake. Pew, pew.
I still think Danny's crazy, for the record. Now, go on. What do we got next?